So now what I'm going to start doing is putting all the electronics in before I glue the belly pan on. It'll just make it easier to do. So I already installed the motor. The motor, you're probably going to want to use something at least around 400 watts. The prop slot is big enough for up to an 8-inch prop, but I'm going to be using a what is it? An NTM motor. It's a 28 by 36 2200 kV motor. It's going to be running on 4S lipo pack, and I'm going to be running a 6 by 5.5 prop on this one. That's pretty close to the original setup that I had with the Monster Jet. We'll put it together and see what the performance is. If you guys want to use like lower kV motors with bigger props, you can probably do that, and just kind of experiment with the different power setups. But anyway, I've got that motor, and this thing's going to take 3 servos. You're going to have one, basically it's just going to be hot glued down on the bottom side for the elevator, and you're going to have one for each aileron, and these will be down on the bottom also. The aileron servos, what I'm going to try and do is basically I'm going to tuck them in under where this belly pan goes. I'm going to cut a small slot so they kind of get notched in under there. Then you'll just run the control rods out to the ailerons. Alright everyone, I got all 3 servos. Basically I just hot glued them to the foam board. If you got a slick surface on your servo, you might want to rough it up a little bit with like some sandpaper or a knife or something, just to make sure that the hot glue adheres to the servo and keeps it glued down. So basically that's pretty much everything that you need to do on the bottom side. As you can see, I ran the servo wires up through the bottom of the fuselage, and then they come out on the top, and then I'll show you what it looks like a little bit later on the top. Alright everyone, I got the belly pan all glued down, and as you can see the servos kind of hang out through those notches there. And I forgot to cover the front part of the belly pan. Basically it's got some nice contours that you need to glue down, so you can see these front edges of the air scoops. They basically kind of contour around the bottom of the fuselage. So you just need to run a bead of hot glue down this and then hot glue it down. And there's one other little piece that's on the plans. It's just called a belly pan notch, I think, on the plan. Basically it's got a cut line, as you can see there. You just cut off and pull off the bottom part of the foam board, and then you want to use like a sanding block or something and put a real shallow bevel from where that cut line is all the way down to the top edge. So that'll make it fit nice and flush right up in here. Just hot glue it into there, and it should look like that. Once you get everything seated down, it should fit nice and flushly. Alright everyone, I've got the plane flipped over now, and while we got it flipped over, since we're done doing the work on the bottom side, I'm going to glue the vertical stabilizers up at the 45-degree angle. There is a little template tool to make a 45-degree angle tool to help you out in the plans. So basically you just run a bead of hot glue down here, and then you're going to press it up and make it even with this 45-degree bevel, 45-degree angle holder, until the hot glue dries, and that'll make sure your vertical stabilizers are at the right angle. So you want to do that on this side and repeat again on the other side, and then you'll have both vertical stabilizers at hopefully the right angles. Alright everyone, the vertical stabilizers are nice and glued in at the right angle. So next step, you just want to glue in these motor pods. They just slip in the slots that you cut out earlier, and they should fit right into the wing, right by where the KF airfoil has a cutout, and you just hot glue those in. Alright everyone, I got the plane pretty much all put together. The only other really piece you got to make is the canopy. We'll put that on later. Currently the top is not glued on, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it outside, and I'm going to actually throw a coat of paint on it. I'm going to use some of this Testors foam safe paint, the model paint. I'm just going to put it on and color it pretty much a gray color right now. Then after that's done, we'll probably come back later when the plane's done, and I'll probably put in some more stripes or something just to make it a little more visible when you're flying. Alright everyone, I got the basic paint down on the plane. So what I'm going to do next, while that's drying out really good, I'm going to make the canopy. Basically all you need is some cardstock. I usually like to use either a dark black or a dark blue or something like that. And then you just use the template that I have in the plans. You cut out along the edges, and then all these red dash lines, those are going to be the fold lines. And then you have these little overlap tabs that'll kind of fit under it when you fold it, and then you're just going to hot glue it or some other glue to paste it all together in shape. Alright guys, I got the canopy pretty much all cut out. I left the bottom piece kind of still taped on here to hold on the paper on top of the cardstock, and that'll help you with all the fold lines. Basically after you get it like this, you just come along with a straight edge and then start folding it, right along these fold lines with straight edge to make nice creases for the canopy. And after you get it to kind of take shape, then you're going to add some glue on the glue tabs and glue it all together in shape. Alright everyone, I got the canopy all formed. It's all glued together, and I also put some tape on the bottom. Basically what you want to do after you get it formed, you want to take some sandpaper and kind of rough up underneath on the edges on the inside, so the hot glue will stick to it. If it's too smooth, the hot glue might not stick very good. So, but basically after you get it all formed and sanded and prepped, it just fits on the top part of the fuselage. And basically you just want to line the back edge up where this point ends, where it comes up and then starts to turn flat. That's where the back edge of the canopy is going to go. Alright everyone, the canopy is securely mounted to the top of the fuselage. What I did to make it even a little bit better for the hot glue is I poked little holes basically in the foam board right below where the canopy is going to be glued to it. So that'll let the hot glue go into the foam board a little bit and help hold it on a little bit better. After you get it all glued down, then you just kind of come around the edges of the canopy, I don't know, about 1/8 inch or 1/4 of an inch below it, go all the way around it, and it should open up if you want on the fold line that we previously cut when we were forming it. You can have it hinged there, or if you want you can kind of fully cut it off and have it where it fully removes. Later on I'll put a magnet probably up front here just to help hold it down when we're flying, but otherwise that should be good. Alright everyone, we got the canopy all finished, so now we're going to get back to finishing up the electronics. One other step that I like to do on this plane that's not really in the plans, because it's going to vary on what size battery you're going to use. Basically I just take some of the scrap foam board that you have and just make 2 little braces that run along the sides of your batteries, and then just hot glue that in. That'll help make the nose a little bit more rigid and stronger to carry the weight of the battery. Again, this can vary, so that's why it's not in the plans. So just take some scrap foam board from whatever's left over from cutting out the plane, then just cut it to length, and then just size it per whatever battery you're using. On my plane I'm going to be using a 4S battery, so it'll probably be a little wider than, you know, if you're going to be using a 3S battery, or who knows, you know, somebody might even put a 6S battery in this plane. Also, to help hold the battery, we're going to put some Velcro in along the bottom, and I usually put it along the bottom of my battery. And then after we get everything in, you should be able to move the battery forward and back a little bit to get your CG right. So let me glue these in, and then we'll get on to the next step. Alright everyone, I'm getting ready to finish up the plane. I'm putting in the final electronics of it. Basically for this plane I'm going to be using a 60 amp plush ESC by Turnigy. There's different places where you can mount the ESC in this plane. Currently on this plane and the first one I did, I mounted it basically right under where the fuselage is going to mount. If you're worried about airflow, you can also mount it inside the inner air ducts, like right in there. It'll get a lot of airflow there. I have my receiver mounted right here, kind of up towards the front. This one's got the dual antennas. I'm just going to run one out each side and then tape them to the underside of the wings. The battery plug basically just run up into the front of the fuselage area. I'm going to run in again a 4S lipo pack, 2200 milliamp. And since I didn't run the wires on the underside of the fuselage here, where they're hidden, like I did on the first plane. See, the first plane I've got them all run down underneath, so it's nice and clean. This one, again, like I said, I was a little bit too lazy to change out the wires, so I'm just going to run it out of the back side of the fuselage. So to do that, I just cut a little bit off of the back end of it, and basically the fuselage again is just going to be hot glued onto the top, like that, and then the wires will just run out the back. Alright everyone, we're getting ready to start finishing up the plane. As you can see, I glued the top of the fuselage onto the plane. And one other thing I forgot to note before, I don't know if you can see it, there was the bulkhead kind of in the back of the fuselage. I did cut a notch out because that's where the ESC wires are going to go through, and to also let a little bit of air go through there. Later on I might cut a hole in the top of the fuselage a little bit just to add some venting for the ESC. I also added some magnets to the hatch. I added one on the top side up here right at the edge, and there's also one down here at the bottom right on the top of the bulkhead there, and basically that'll hold in the hatch nice and good. Real quick, here's a view of the bottom of the plane. I now added the control horns and control rods, and as you can see I also added a piece of tape over each of the control surfaces right on the hinge line. That'll help make it a little bit stronger. I also just added some color accents, again, to help with the orientation of the plane, and just kind of to pay homage to the original guys that designed the YF-23. I added the Black Widow emblem on the bottom of the plane. Alright everyone, one of the last things you want to do after you get everything installed and all your control surfaces dialed in, working right, you want to go ahead and put your battery in and everything, get everything in like it's going to be when it flies so you have the correct flying weight, and then you want to start dialing in your center of gravity. On this plan that's included with this plan set, there's a page that shows where the proper CG is on the plane. You can find it either by measuring from the nose. It's roughly 18 3/4 inches back from the tip of the nose. Or you can also find it easily by measuring off of the wing. You can go from the edge of the wing and measure in 6.5 inches, or from the leading edge of the wing and measure 8.5 inches. Then what I usually do is mark, a line on each side of the wing, and then just balance it at that point. You may have to scoot the battery forward and back, or maybe even have to add a tiny bit of lead or other weight to get the CG correct. So again, on my plane, I don't know if you can see it here, I just added real light gray lines by using the measurements on both sides of the wing. Let's see, I don't know if you can see it on that side, but basically you just pick it up on those dots or put it on something to balance it, and that's where it should balance to get your proper CG and get the plane flying right. Alright everyone, that'll pretty much finish up the build video for this new FoamFighters FF-23 version 2. This plane is not really meant for beginners, so I'd probably recommend it for guys that are kind of intermediate to advanced, that have built some of the foam board planes before. It is a little bit harder because there's a lot more cuts and folds that you got to do than some of the beginner planes. If you built some of the other ones, then you can probably step into it, but definitely don't build this as your first plane. Kind of look at some of the trainers and some of the other planes available out there in the RC community. This plane is now available. Like I said, the plans are available for sale on our website, so please visit that if you're interested in building it. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.